Thank you very much, Murthy, ladies and gentlemen, my distinguished panel members. It's a great privilege to be here with you this afternoon. I want to thank you all for your support and your leadership and the moral courage, and particularly the leadership we've seen from the active members of the Congress who've been here with us today. Former members, friends up here, colleagues, Senator D'Amato, Governor Rendell, and I have become very close friends over the last year. You know, I've spent many days in hearing rooms like this, usually sitting in front of the panel answering questions. When I was leaving Washington after 8 years, my staff said, we did a statistic and you've testified more than any other head of a federal agency, because I reported to 2 intelligence committees, 2 justice committees, 2 appropriation committees, anybody else who wanted to call me up here. So I have a lot of experience as a witness, and that's what we are functioning as today. We are functioning mostly as witnesses. The people who have come to this cause, as you heard, an absolutely incredibly diverse group of people. I don't think I know of another cause that would have coalesced and brought together this amazing group of people. We wrote a letter to the Secretary of State on January 20th. It's public now, you can see it. The signatories on that letter are absolutely incredible. Attorney generals, CIA directors, NATO commanders, Marine Corps commandants, senators, governors, ambassadors, national security advisors. And we all have come to one single but critical conclusion. The situation in Camp Ashraf now is, as you've heard, an emergency situation. We've seen genocide in 2 examples coming from the Iraqi government, and sad to say, watching videos where Iraqi soldiers with American uniforms, American weapons, trained by our soldiers, go in and massacre unarmed innocent people twice. On 2 occasions, by the way, when our Secretary of Defense, incredibly, was in Iraq meeting with the Prime Minister. So we have a lot of history here, recent history, to fear another genocide, a looming genocide. And as Professor Dershowitz said, we have a very unique advantage here in the sense that we have witnesses. Your witnesses, we're witnesses to what has happened here and what could happen. And our goal here is to make sure that genocide does not occur. Several things that have to be done, and I agree with all of my fellow panelists here. We need to change our game plan a little bit this year. We've been writing letters, we've been on editorial boards, the governor's been on TV. We have talked and studied and advocated and answered questions for everyone who wanted to learn about these facts, which are very important. We're going to take, I'm happy to say here, not only for myself, but we have a sort of a small steering group of incredibly prominent people who've been working with this. And a couple of weeks ago, the governor and I, the former Secretary of Homeland Security, we found ourselves demonstrating outside the White House. Can you imagine? Some of my sources, I have friends and sources still in government agencies, you might imagine, said that accompanying Prime Minister Maliki, now this is incredible, right? Accompanying Prime Minister Maliki was the Iraqi Secretary of Transportation. And I said, well, so what? Well, I said, no, you don't understand, Louis. His name is Amiri, and he is the former head of the IRGC Badr Brigade. The IRGC, which is the terrorist enterprise for the mullahs who run Iran. And, you know, here's some pictures of him kissing the ring of the Ayatollah. So he's in the White House with the president, and we're outside demonstrating. I said, you know, I don't have arrest powers anymore except as a citizen, but I said I really would like to interview this guy. I'd like to ask him some questions about Khobar Towers, which was an IRGC terrorist operation that murdered 19 Americans in June of 1996. The Saudi Hezbollah performed that atrocious terrorist attack against the United States, killing 19 of our airmen. The people who were responsible for that attack were trained by the IRGC in the Bekaa Valley. They got cash and passports at the Iranian embassy in Damascus. General al-Sharifi supervised this attack. When we investigated it and went over to Saudi Arabia and the FBI interviewed people who were responsible, who told us all this, we brought this back to the National Security Advisor to the President of the United States. And we said, we have evidence, not information, we have evidence that the Iranian government, using the IRGC, Mr. Amiri's organization, attacked Khobar Towers and murdered 19 Americans. One of the most incredible experiences I had when I was in Washington, the National Security Advisor says to me, "Who knows about this?" I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "Who knows about this? That the Iranians did the attack." I said, "Well, the FBI knows about it, the Attorney General, who was sitting next to me, about 100 FBI agents, and now you do, sir." And he said, "Well, this is a big problem for us." The problem was Iran. The problem is still Iran. And as Ambassador Ginsburg said, a policy that's got a shelf life that's not only expired, but is rotten at this point. And the policy was very simple. If we appease the Iranians, let's put MEK on the Foreign Terrorist Organization list in 1997, which is precisely the reason it was put on that list, as you just heard, things will work out. If you keep them on the list, they told the Republican administration, you won't see our IEDs blowing up your soldiers in Iraq. Well, that didn't work either. And now there's a whole bunch of other reasons that nobody quite understands. But we understand one thing. We understand that based on the facts and the law, uphold justice, there is absolutely no legal or factual justification for keeping this organization on the Foreign Terrorist Organization list, which the 21 people, by the way, who signed this letter, some of the most prominent terrorist experts in the world have found no facts to support this justification. More importantly, keeping this terrorist organization on the list is not a non-action. Keeping them on the list, as you heard from several speakers, gives both the Iranian regime and the Iraqi government a license to kill the residents of Camp Ashraf. And that is absolutely outrageous. That's not being neutral or passive. That's facilitating terrorism. You know, you may have seen, again, this witness room, you may have seen the other day, before the Senate Intelligence Committee across the hall here, the heads of 16 intelligence agencies, our major intelligence brain trust in the United States, came before the Intelligence Committee for their annual report. General Clapper, who's the DNI, was there. You know, as I look down the row, first of all, I know most of these people. My successor there at the FBI, General Petraeus. You know, I had a quick flashback of the 21 of us sitting before a committee, which, by the way, we would like to do and have done in part. If you had those 21 experts saying, we have not just read newspapers, we have studied the facts relating to the history of the MEK. More importantly, we've interviewed Mrs. Rajavi, we've interviewed the leadership, we've tested them, we've verified them. This is not a terrorist organization. I don't believe any member sitting on that panel on the other side would contradict that. So, So here we are in a very preposterous situation. We have gotten no response from the State Department, but more importantly, and for those of you who are visitors to Washington, you know, the principles by which Washington, D.C. works are not that secretive. Up here on Capitol Hill, the law intersects with the facts, intersects with politics. Well, let me just make a quick comment, and then I'm going to let my other speakers talk here. The 21 people who signed that letter, we just haven't signed letters. You know, we've talked to editorial boards, we've been on TV shows, et cetera, et cetera. But there's nothing there, ladies and gentlemen, because the facts and the law totally contradict, undermine, and I think at this point humiliate the position of the State Department and the position of the United States of America. We had this Kafkaesque conversation with an ambassador the other day who said, you know, I've got to go over and convince these countries to take these MEK refugees. We said, well, Ambassador, maybe your lawyers could assist you by helping you get this delisting done. I said, isn't it a contradiction when you're going over there saying, please take these people, but you know, they're on our MEK terrorist list? And the response was, the response was incredibly, I'm sorry, the response was incredibly, they're two different issues. Well, come on, they're not two different issues. They go to credibility. More importantly, they go to the honor and promise of the United States. We're witnesses. The way Camp Ashraf has been pre-designed and controlled by the Iraqi regime, clearly at the behest of the Iranian regime, it is now a prison camp, not a refugee camp. This is the last thing I'm going to say. The other thing we've done and we're doing is we told the State Department in our most recent call, look, why don't you send us, we've got generals, we've got FBI agents, we've got attorney generals, we've got CIA directors, we've got national security advisors to the president, we've got ambassadors, we've got governors. Send us over to Camp Liberty and we'll check it out for you. And an excellent suggestion by Professor Dershowitz, we'll be happy to go to Camp Ashraf and take an inventory just to make sure there's no evidence tampering after these people hopefully move out, not to a prison, but move out to liberty and freedom. Thank you.